Hello and welcome to the Good Stories podcast. My name is Jody, back again with my brother Steven, and today we get to talk about Mary Poppins, an absolutely wonderful movie, one of my favorites. But today instead we're talking about the original stories written by P.L. Travers, first published in 1934. You'll find as we talk a lot of the elements of the Disney movies in these books, like the laughing uncle and having tea on the ceiling, and the bird woman on the steps of St. Paul, as well as the Banks family with Jane and Michael in the nursery. But that's just a small part of the magic and adventures that happen. The Mary Poppins books are really a world where ordinary things are turned on their head, where commonplace things like grocery shopping, or playing in the park, or even a little boy in a bad mood are reconstructed with a large dose of magic. These stories invite us to look at everyday things with wonder, but they're offset with the strict rigidity of a British nanny. So make sure you bring your coat and have good manners, even if you're on a late night trip to visit Orion or dance with Saturn. So, brother, did you know I once knew a man with a wooden leg named Smith?
Having seen the movie, yes.
What's the name of his other leg?
So good.
It is a good joke. So what did you think of Mary Poppins? Going back through it.
Mary Poppins for me was interesting because this is one of the few where I saw the movie first and the book came much later. So to me, the original is the movie and the book is something that I had to fit in to my perceptions of it. This is one of those situations where, well, should we just go there? Personally, I think I like the movie better than the book, but there are aspects of the book that are just wonderful and delightful and expanded in ways that you don't get to see in the movie.
Yeah, they're entirely different, I think. So there's pieces that cross over, but Mary in the movies is so much nicer than in the books. In the book, she's kind of downright mean sometimes, but all these wonderful things happen. So I do love the stories, even though if she'd give the kids a hug now and then, it would really help me out. But P.L. Travers said that she didn't write children's stories. She maintained these were not for kids. They don't really have that warm fuzziness.
No, they really don't. It's interesting you mentioned that because a number of writers that I really respect who wrote for kids, C.S. Lewis is the one coming to mind, but J.R.R. Tolkien as well, very specifically did not write for kids. They wrote stuff that they liked and a lot of kids love it. And I guess there's some continuity with that with P.L. Travers.
I don't know. She seems angry to me sometimes. She scolds Michael, but I'm not framing her well because truly such wonderful things happen. So there are dozens of stories. If you read all of the Mary Poppins books, there's, 5 or 6?
I think there may be 8.
Are there that many?
There are a bunch.
I read the first few. And yeah, a lot of good stories, very different from each other. And it's funny where the pieces of the movie come out. But today we want to talk about a few of our favorites, I think, as we go through it. So do you want to start?
I do have a plot summary.
All right. Time for a story.
The Banks family at 17 Cherry Tree Lane is left without a nanny unexpectedly. In need of replacement, Mary Poppins comes to them carried by the east wind. Both stern and loving, Mary Poppins takes care of all 4 Banks children, Jane, Michael, John, and Barbara. Through a series of adventures, we learn more about Mary Poppins and her many friends. Eventually, she leaves on the west wind, but the children are confident they will see her again. Let's talk about the dancing cow. The dancing cow is one of my favorite fairy tales ever, and it's this vignette that just pops up in this book. Jane and Michael, well, Jane specifically is sick that day, and so they are hanging out in their room, and they look out of the room. They're in London, and what do they see coming up at the gate but a cow? A real live cow. This would be unusual where I live, and I live in the country. I imagine it is far more unusual in London. But Mary Poppins doesn't think this is unusual, or certainly doesn't act that way. In her prim, stern way, she basically refers to the cow as an old friend of her mother's.
She does seem surprised to see her and reflects back in her memory. If it were the movie, she'd have some cloud effect going off as she remembers. But yes, the cow in the lane, and the cow is checking for something, looking over each fence for something.
Yes, and this is where the story starts. So the cow, cleverly named the Red Cow.
It's very fitting.
has been around for a long time. Again, Mary Poppins' mother is the time frame on this one that she refers to. The red cow is hanging out in the field, doing what cows do, being very prim, very proper, being very cow-ish. The red cow has had many calves, cleverly named Red Calf, and living life of the cow and doing what she does. Well, she wakes up one night and all of a sudden starts dancing. Just cannot stop dancing. All sorts of dances. She does the hornpipe. She does the fling. She does all these different dances. And she loves it at first because it's delightful to be dancing. But it also worries her. Why am I dancing? And more importantly, why can't I stop? The cow becomes exhausted.
And hungry.
Because she can't stop dancing to eat and drink. She's just so tired. And what do you do when you run into a situation like this? You get help. And who is going to help her more than the king? So the dancing cow dances her way to the king's palace. I enjoy the king in this story. He's very focused on getting a haircut. He has an appointment and he needs to sort all this out before then.
And making laws.
He makes
like 72 in an hour. He's like, that's pretty good.
Strong work for a day. Yeah, now he can go get his haircut. The dancing cow comes in and he tells her, stop dancing. What can I do for you? And she says, well, that's the problem. I can't stop dancing. And so the king tries to figure out a solution to this, and he does. It's interesting that the king is the one who notices. Says, well, of course you're dancing. Don't you know that you have a star on your horn? A star, a falling star, apparently descended, hit her horn when she was sleeping, and this is what is making her dance. Well, he can solve this problem. He gets all his courtiers and his people to grab the star and to try and pull it off the horn. But they can't do it. They're all tugging and heaving and pulling, and they can't do it. So she's gone to the king requesting help. The king has identified the problem, but he can't solve the problem. So what does the king do?
Check the encyclopedia.
He consults the encyclopedia. The encyclopedia was not as helpful as they were hoping it would be, because the only thing about cows and stars and the sky is the cow that jumped over the moon. The king then responds, well, I guess that's what you got to do.
Give it a whirl.
But the cow thought this was a very improper action.
She's a lady.
For a lady like her to be jumping over the moon. But the king's got to get to his haircut. So finally he talks her into it. And he has a whistle handy for the purpose. He has to blow on the whistle for her to leap. And she does. The cow leaps over the moon. And in this leap, as she's going through the heavens, she feels the star sliding off her horn. And when she lands after jumping over the moon, she's in her own field with the red calf. She can rest. She is no longer filled with this desire to dance. She can rest. She can eat. She can sleep. Her calf is glad to see her again. All is well with the world. For a little bit. But then the cow realizes that she's missing something. She's longing for something. She misses being able to dance. She misses the star that made her dance. And so she becomes very, very depressed.
It's also, she describes the feeling to the king as like laughter running up and down inside her. And I think it's also a missing of that feeling, which is very lovely.
I think so too. So she is depressed. She's sad. She's missing the star. Who shall she now turn to for advice but Mary Poppins' mother? And that's the only name we get. It's just her mother, who says, well, you know, that's not the only falling star, right? There are billions of falling stars all the time, but you can't expect a star to fall twice into the same field in the same place. And the cow realizes, oh, so I need to go looking. I need to go other places in order to recatch a star. And the mother says, yes, that's what you need to do. And that's what she does. And this is why she's in London nosing at the gate. She is looking for a falling star so she can capture that feeling and that desire to dance again.
It is a really beautiful story. It's so random to me, though. The pieces of it, and I actually really love that the cow that jumped over the moon is incorporated. We're like, well, let's give it a go. What struck me on this is it's only one of maybe a couple stories that Mary Poppins shares with the kids.
Yeah.
She is not a storyteller. Things happen around her and to her and with her. But this is, I can't even think of another example of when she actually tells the kids. She typically doesn't say anything. Do you know who is the storyteller in these books? Jane.
Hmm.
Jane is commented on as the storyteller, and Michael, no, like his big sister. And so he waits for her to tell the story. You got to respect the process as she's telling a story in one of the chapters. It's really sweet, actually. So Mary Poppins is not a storyteller.
What a wonderful point. I had not put that together. That's great.
Yeah, Jane's our little storyteller. That's beautiful. The stars in this, the idea of a falling star and a cow horn, and then she now has the itch to dance. I get why they didn't use it in the movie. How would you make a cow dancing look enticing?
Well, and how could you possibly do it without animation?
Well, that too.
Disney could do it. They could do the dancing cow, and I think they could tell the story delightfully, but P.L. Travers wouldn't have anything of it because she hated the cartoon work that Disney did.
There is a cow in there, though, isn't there? I'm realizing just now. Like, she's part of the song in the Jolly Holiday, or... Anyway,
yeah.
There is a cow in there, but there, like I said, there's a bunch of stories in these books. The dancing cow is excellent, but the stories I liked best all included a star. Or stars, sometimes more than one. So, Mrs. Corey.
Mrs. Corey. Having just rewatched the movie after reading the book, she shows up in the opening scene when Bert is going around and talking with all the different names and making rhymes.
With the two daughters.
With the two daughters who are much bigger there. So, sorry, go ahead.
But
Tell us about Mrs. Corey.
That's fun. I didn't watch the movie. I should have done that. She seems nicer in the movie as well.
Yeah, these adult characters in this book are pretty scary, frankly.
They're scary, and they're a little bit mean. You know, they actually don't do harm, but they're very, even Mary Poppins is very cutting to Mike. I think she calls him disgusting at some point. Like, wow, harsh. But Mrs. Corey is another star story that I really like. So they're out, Mary Poppins and the kids are out grocery shopping, and they go to the fishmonger and the butcher, and those are described and they're funny. But then they end up at this rundown little shop to buy gingerbread. And Jane's like, what? This is not the right way. And Mary's like, who's doing the shopping here? Right? Me. So they end up, and it's funny. If this store was in like Harry Potter world, it would not be in Diagon Alley. It would be in Nocturne Alley. Like, it is run down and dusty, and they're selling food there, which,
Yep.
Yeah, but they go in, and there's, it's a bakery, but there's two daughters who come out when Mary calls them. Clearly, she knows them.
Miss Fanny and Miss Annie.
And they are dour, large women. They're sad.
They don't seem cheerful.
No.
No, they seem to like the kids. They seem to be happy that the kids are coming in, but they clearly live under the shadow of something.
Yeah.
These large women live under something's shadow, and we soon discover what that is.
Yeah, so their mother comes running out, and she's jolly and chipper, but small and wizened. So kind of a funny juxtaposition of things. But Mary clearly knows her, and interestingly, she speaks to Mrs. Corey with deference, with respect, which is saying something, because Mary does not do that.
No.
Even to her employers. I mean, no. So Mrs. Corey is something special. But it's kind of an alarming story.
I am wiggling my fingers right now.
Oh,
no one
my
can
goodness.
see this.
So there's babies. John and Barbara are babies. Twin babies. And she breaks off her fingers and hands them to the babies to eat. And she's like, don't worry, it's just barley sugar.
They'll grow back.
And they grow back immediately. And there's some discussion of sometimes they're peppermint bars, and she nibbles them at night when she can't fall asleep. Like,
very nutritious.
Ew.
She also never knows what they're going to taste like, apparently. The flavor of her fingers changes because Jane and Michael ask for them, and she says, well, I don't know what they're going to taste like, but this is what they taste like now or at this time.
Yeah. So at some point, she says gingerbread, and she kind of scolds her daughters for not giving them gingerbread, but also scolds them for presuming to give them gingerbread.
This seemed very cruel to me. I mean, the daughters really are in a rough place because the one said, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and give it to them, or I was about to. And she gets in trouble for giving away or being about to. And then the other one says, well, I didn't think about it. Wasn't me. And then she gets in trouble for lack of initiative. So
for thinking.
Yeah, I
She
don't
was
think
like,
the daughters can win here.
no. It's very much an opposites kind of situation. But despite the sad bits, there's really wonderful parts. So Jane and Michael find her wonderful when she's talking to them and like terrifying when she's talking to her daughter. So that's sad. But anyway, gingerbread. They have paper stars on them. They're gold stars on the gingerbread, and they each get 4 pieces, and Jane and Michael are carrying them out, and Mrs. Corey asks them if they keep their stars, the paper stars off the gingerbread. And Jane's like, oh, yeah, all the time. I keep mine in the shelf. And Michael's like, I keep mine in the closet. And Mrs. Corey and Mary Poppins like look at each other.
There's an exchange.
They have an understanding. Something goes on there. And we're like, okay. So anyway, they send them off with their gingerbread. And as they leave, the shop disappears. It's just gone. And it says, if the gingerbread hadn't been so delicious, Jane and Michael would have noticed how very strange this is that it disappears. Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, they eat the gingerbread. It's delicious. It's wonderful. It's great. They put the stars where they told them they were going to put all their stars because that's their collection. And then the 2 kids go to bed.
Yeah, and so once they're in bed, they hear someone moving around. And so they get up and they tiptoe to the window because they hear someone outside. And they see Mrs. Corey and they see her 2 daughters. And one of them has 2 very long ladders, and one has a pail of glue, which how they know it's glue, I don't know. It's a story. But Mary Poppins is sneaking around, and she comes out with their stars in a basket, and they're glowing.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the faint glow of them. And so it's this funny image in the book. I like the little sketch where one of the daughters puts each ladder up into the sky. So there's the legs on the land, on the earth, and then the other side's up in the sky. And Mrs. Corey goes up with the glue, and Mary Poppins goes up with the stars, and they slather glue on the sky and put these stars up, and they're twinkling and glowing, and the kids are watching this just in wonder and delight. And I just thought it was super cool. I don't know that there's really a moral to any of these kinds of stories. A couple of them might have, but this one I think is just really beautiful.
I agree. It's a picture. It's a beautifully painted picture. And these particular stories we've just talked about, the dancing cow, the stars glued to the heavens, these are moving to me in ways that I can't always explain or even justify. I mean, Miss Corey seems pretty awful, but at the same time, stars get painted in the heavens. That's wonderful. There's another one later on with the bird woman that I think encapsulates this in its own way. Those who have seen the movie will be familiar with the bird woman, but in the book, it's just one vignette. It's one exchange. The bird woman only ever says, feed the birds, 2pence a bag. That's it.
Yeah. I like, it's pointed at, it's a good simile, like a cuckoo clock or a cuckoo. That's all she can say. So Michael asks her a question, and she says, 2pence a bag, feed the birds. That's all she's got in there. That's it.
But she's got that in spades.
Oh, yeah.
And the birds obviously love her, and she loves the birds. And so they feed the birds. The birds are a bit cheeky. One of them steals a flower from Mary Poppins' hat and gives it to the bird lady. So the birds like the bird lady more than they like Mary Poppins, which is not always the case. Usually everyone loves Mary Poppins when they go places. What I want to say about the bird woman is not so much about her, but about Jane and Michael. Because as they're walking away, Michael asks Jane to tell the story.
Yeah.
As you said, Jane's the storyteller, and she does. And it's not much of a story. It's just when everyone goes home, all the birds come down and gather around the bird woman, and she keeps them under the folds of her clothing. And that's how they spend the night, of she and the birds together. There's points in the story where Michael corrects Jane or says, we forgot about this part where the birds wash in the bath and things like that, but he just loves this story, and it says he would hear it over and over and never get tired of it. I think that is a written picture of kind of what I experience with the dancing cow or with the stars glued to the sky. It's just something that speaks to him in a way that is profound and deep and important, and he can hear it over and over without getting tired.
Yeah, there are other star stories, and it's interesting with Mary Poppins because she seems to know everyone, including animals. She can speak to animals, like she speaks to Andrew the dog in the movie. There's one about Andrew and his friend that
Willoughby
comes to live with him. Everyone's known her a long time.
Yeah.
And so there's one, I think it might be in the second book, where Mr. Banks's governess, when he was a child, comes to stay. Did you read that one?
No, Jody's ahead of me here. I only read the first book. Tell me this story.
Well, we don't have to do the whole story, but Mary Poppins is kind of strict and somewhat harsh on the kids at times, but this lady is the law, and he's terrified, even as an adult. Like, she's coming to stay? No, and he runs away to work. Doesn't come back. She's like, I'm coming to stay for a month, and she's going to fix it all and all this. But at some point, she calls Mary Poppins young, and there is vengeance. That's the thing that really seems to make Mary angry, is when people call her young. Like, how dare you? And so we're going to get to more of my theories about who Mary Poppins is. I think you also have a theory.
Oh, I do.
But that calling her young, just no. And so she ends up shrinking her to the size of a bird and putting her in a cage, because the lady, the other governess, had a lark in a cage. And this is just a major transgression, apparently, to put a lark in a cage. His name is Caruso, which I think is fun. But yeah, this lady learns her lesson for calling Mary Poppins young.
Impertinence.
Oh. The other thing that stuck out at me, some of the characters have repeated phrases that they use. So Mary Poppins, when she's pleased, says, "Strike me pink." And Admiral Boom, you know, the guy who's always on time with the ship house, his is "Blast my gizzard." I thought those are funny. And then the bird woman, of course, "Feed the birds, tuppence bag."
The dancing cow has always been my favorite story out of this, but that might be changing as I get older.
Ooh, what was
This time through, John and Barbara's story.
Oh, yeah.
Was beautiful and sweet in
They're the
ways
babies
that I had really kind of forgotten. And so the story goes that everyone else is busy doing their stuff, so it's just Mary, it's just her and the babies. How old are they? They're like 3 months. They're real young.
Less than a year.
Less than a year. And the wind blows through and it's talking to them. And they're talking back to the wind.
Yeah, they have a chat.
The sun shines down. And Barbara, this baby, is talking to the sun, and the sun is talking with the baby, and they delight in each other. And the birds come by, and they're talking with the babies and with Mary Poppins. And this whole conversation comes up around this, where it becomes clear that there's this universal language that all of these people speak. Well, I use people, all these entities, whether it's
the elements, the animals. Mary Poppins is the only adult, and the babies.
And the babies are talking about that, how, well, Jane and Michael, they don't talk to these things like we do, or Mom and Dad don't talk to these things like we do. And Mary Poppins says, well, they did once. And this just strikes the babies, because they realize that they're going to lose this ability to be in harmony and in communication with everything around them. They're going to lose this, and they're not having any of that. And so they start crying.
Yeah.
And this is where the mom comes in and tries to soothe them, but she doesn't speak to them in the way that Mary Poppins does. She doesn't know what's hurting them. Mary Poppins suggests, well, they must be teething. This is what's going on. And so the mother soothes them to the best of her ability with this idea of teething and things like that. But that's not what hurts them. What hurts them is the idea that they're going to lose this. And there's this conversation with the bird that the bird says, well, we'll see. And he comes back 6 months later, and they've lost the ability to communicate with these other things. And the bird is sad.
Yeah. So they're still sweet babies, but now they don't have that immense simplicity enough to speak to the bird. But Mary Poppins can still speak to the bird.
Because Mary Poppins is the great exception. That's one of the things that goes throughout these stories. We start to get these glimpses that Mary Poppins has powers and characteristics that other people don't have.
So elemental is how I think of her, with the wind.
The wind's in the east. She comes in on an east wind, a wind from the east.
So yeah, the elemental piece of it, and that I think is interesting. It's part of what her relationship with the stars are. So there's one where she's Christmas shopping with Jane and Michael, and Jane and Michael are being kind of selfish. They're like, oh, I'll get this for Mom, but really it's for me. You know, they buy things kind of with an agenda. But then Maya shows up. She is one of the Pleiades,
Mm-hmm.
one of the sisters. They drew lots to see who got to do the Christmas shopping this year, and Maya won. Electra didn't get to go this time, and Mary knows her, and they stay. And Maya, she's very charitable in her giving and her buying, and so there's a bit of a lesson in that one. But I just love that one of the sisters shows up while they're Christmas shopping. I just thought it was pretty. And there is another one with the stars. Again, I think this might be in the second book, but it's called An Evening Out. So she gets every other Thursday off. She insists upon it. It's mandatory. And a lot of these adventures that happen on that day.
Yeah.
So the evening out, she goes to a circus of the stars. I mean, Saturn's dancing around. There's Orion there. And the sun is the ringmaster. And he kisses her on the cheek, which is this wonderful honor, but it burns her. And so the kids can see it the next day. And that's how because she always denies it.
Mm-hmm.
She's how dare you suggest that such a person as me would dance or do things, out and about. But there's always some evidence that it actually did happen. So Jane and Michael can see it. Her experiences, though, on her evenings out, they're impacted by things the kids mention. Okay, they don't seem random at all. They will talk about something that then triggers the adventure. And so they seem to have a role in it, and they're always invited, even though she scolds them for being there. But I think it's really neat that these kids in their conversation and the things they notice, because in that one, the evening out, Jane is counting stars, I think, in that one. Or there's always just some triggering conversation that kind of leads towards this adventure. So I wonder if Mary even knows what they're going to be.
That's a great thought. The one in the first book is the full moon. Remember that one? The full moon where they go to the zoo?
On her birthday.
On her birthday.
The birthday.
Yeah, when the full moon aligns with her birthday, it becomes a big deal. And I have to admit, this almost ruined the entire book for me.
I'm surprised you brought it up. The main character in that one is a snake.
Well, we have to talk about this. So, listeners, I loathe snakes with every fiber of my being. I am terrified of them. I detest them. I don't like looking at pictures of snakes. I can read about snakes, but it makes me uncomfortable. I'm not a fan of them. And at this birthday party for Mary Poppins, they go to the zoo, and it starts delightfully. There's a bear with a conductor hat on who gives them tickets to get in.
It's funny. They put the people in cages.
They put the people in cages, and they're feeding them. And
there's like babies in a cage,
them.
and the animals feed them milk. It's really odd.
It's this total reversal of what's going on. They get to hang out with the lion, who is very pompous as the king of the jungle. They get to hang out with all these different animals, but then they're going to actually find Mary Poppins. And where is she sitting but in the snake house? All the snakes around her. And then what came out was the real king of the jungle that was even greater than the lion, the Hamadryad.
I did not know that was a name, but it is a king cobra.
I had a lot of issues with this because I love dryads. Dryads are the wood nymphs.
That's what it means, wood nymph.
Hamadryad is a wood nymph, but clearly this was a snake. So I typed into Google Hamadryad snake.
You saw pictures.
And the pictures came up. I'm squinting my eyes to try and click the little X to close it.
See what he does
terrifying.
For this podcast.
Oh my goodness.
Good job, Stevie.
But this is another one where the next day Mary Poppins denies all this, but the gift she gets is the shed skin of this king snake, of this Hamadryad, which they then see as a belt that she's wearing the next day.
The belt's cool. Something giving you its skin is pretty gross. But clearly it's a high honor. And yeah, the Hamadryad, I also had to look it up. I'm like, I get that it's a snake, but it's a king cobra.
Yeah, almost ruined this book for me. It was rough.
There weren't pictures in the book, so you're okay. We talked about spider's breath in an episode, so...
Oh, that poor Tom Thumb.
Yeah. I feel like I've done my part as well.
I think that's true.
All right. So, my question for you. Who do you think was Mary's mom?
I have been thinking about that, and I've got nothing. I have nothing to offer on this. Do you have an idea?
I have an idea. And who's going to prove me wrong? Because there's no right answer, I think she's Mother Nature.
With the elemental tie-in, the fact that she has...
knows, she's clearly... Mary is herself beyond time. She gets so angry when someone calls her young. I think it's Mother Nature. With the winds coming in and out. So I looked up some things about the winds, the east and the
let's
west
talk about
winds.
the winds.
These are things that you've probably read more about just in general, but these are pieces I picked up. The east wind specifically is always described across cultures as kind of unpredictable and capricious, and Mary sure is that. Okay, she's full of magic and wonderful things and enchantments, but then she's mean or harsh. In the Greek, it represents unpredictability and like autumn storms, sudden storms, or bad weather. There's a saying in Britain, an old saying, I think. It says, when the wind is in the east, 'tis neither good for man nor beast. In places like Mongolia and Japan, they have stories about the east wind. The Norse, do you know this one? There are 4 dwarves that hold up the sky. And again, elemental beings. They are tied to the earth. But I think you say Austri or something like that. But that's the east one. Suggests a wind that can be both, this is interesting, life-giving, but also harsh.
Yes.
So it's both at the same time. In Scotland, they call the east wind the pestilence wind, which that's a bummer.
I don't want to be that wind.
And here's my favorite. It's a tale in Europe, out of Europe. I'm not sure which part exactly. But when the Aurora Borealis shows, it's the north and the east winds in battle together.
Oh, that's
and
great.
So they're in contrast. They're fighting for control of the skies and the stars. And so, yeah, I love the idea that Mary is inextricably tied to the winds. It also helps me like her more because she is so capricious. And I don't know. Our dad has always maintained she's a liar, even in the movies, because she lied to the kids. For my own purposes of reading these with a charitable mindset, I think maybe she just doesn't remember. You know how Merlin in the Arthur stories, he's always in the future, so he doesn't remember the present or kind of back and forth. I actually wonder if she just doesn't have an awareness of time in the same way, and it helps me not dislike her. Who she is in these adventures it evaporates once they're back in the nursery. It's really interesting. How dare you suggest I would do such a thing? But one more proverb or saying. So wind from the east, fish bite the least. Wind from the north, do not go forth. Wind from the south blows bait in their mouth. I just like the adage. So that's my thing on east wind.
Well, I love everything about that. And you're so right across the board. Everything I've read supports all that. The east wind is always cold and always a bringer of storms, a bringer of turbulence and change. And this is one of the ways where you can get these contrasts. Why would something like that also be a symbol of life in some of these cultures? Well, it's because life and growth and change often requires that conflict. It requires a storm to roil things up, to get them out of their natural state and allow them to grow and change. And what a wonderful description for somebody whose job is to help take care of and grow children. So the other thing about Mary Poppins, though, is she always does kind of the opposite of what you expect in so many ways.
Very unpredictable.
She goes up the banister. I mean, she's a very vain woman in the books, but gets horribly upset when she's called young.
Or complimented.
Yeah. So she always flips between these opposites and always does what you would least expect. And so I think there's something about this generally negative east wind coming in, bringing something that ends up being good for the children.
It's also the west wind's the other way, right? So she's coming in from the east to the west, and the west wind is hope and change, right? And gentler weather is kinder, gentler. So I think maybe she's both. The adventures are more in that light, but, she blows in and out on the east. So
I think that's part of it. The other thought that occurred to me, so talking about the west wind, is Zephyr in Greek. It's always mild. It's always joy and light, favorable. It's the wind that brings the spring. It's an indication of good times, of peace and plenty and prosperity. When do you need somebody like Mary Poppins? You need someone when the times aren't good. when there is storm, when there is turmoil. So she comes in on the east wind. It is the storm and the turmoil that brings her into a place where she can help, where she can be who she is. Once the wind changes, and Mary Poppins doesn't change the wind, she responds to it.
Yeah.
When she realizes the wind has changed, good times are here. Gentleness is here. They don't need her anymore. And she needs to go someplace where she can be of use. And so that's the way I really took the winds in this. There's a wonderful scene in The Lord of the Rings where they're talking about how Gandalf only shows up to cause trouble because there's always trouble. And he says, well, no, I show up because there is trouble and I'm here to help. And I think that's more Mary Poppins' role in this.
Yeah. No, that's good. I like that. I found a quote, an interview from P.L. Travers, the author. There's definitely overtones of Wizard of Oz in this with the magic and the characters in it. It happens at times. So Wizard of Oz, I think most people are aware of it as a general story, but it was a book in 1900 in America, but she didn't like it. And I found a quote, which is funny to me because there are similarities. But here's the thing. It really shows her displeasure with it. It says, "The Wizard of Oz is an insult to the intelligence of children."
Ouch.
So, I mean, this is the woman who wrote Mary Poppins. She sounds like her. Very severe, but I don't think she meant ill by it, if that makes any sense. I think that's how Mary does things.
I think she speaks her
Sharp
mind,
tones.
what she's thinking, and doesn't sugarcoat it usually.
Yeah, she believed the Wizard of Oz was too frivolous. It didn't have the depth. So it's funny to think of Mary Poppins as a story of depth in comparison. She clearly intended it to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I love the idea of thinking about the winds and the stars as something more than just these simple children's stories.
Yeah.
Okay, I know what you want to talk about.
To those listening,
Steven's a nerd. You should know.
I am a massive Doctor Who fan, particularly classic Doctor Who. For those of you who don't know, Doctor Who was a television series started on the BBC in the 1960s, and it has essentially been running ever since, but with a couple hiccups along the way. The premise of Doctor Who is that the Doctor is an alien. He's not from Earth. He is from a planet called Gallifrey, and he escaped his planet with his ship, the TARDIS. The TARDIS is a magical vehicle that can go anywhere in time and space. And so the Doctor goes everywhere in time and space. And from episode to episode, he'll sometimes be on Earth where he's helping the Roman Empire establish, or he's discovering what the Aztecs are doing, or he'll be in some far off planet with a different whole way of functioning, and he's always just kind of swooping in and doing good and going about his life. The thing about Time Lords, though, which is what the Doctor is they have some fairly specific powers. They don't age. They don't get older in the same way humans do. They experience time, but not in the same way. And so they can be thousands of years old and still look young. They also have a technology that allows things to be bigger on the inside. The TARDIS shows up as what looks like a phone booth. It's actually a 1960s police box, but it looks like a phone booth. But when you go in, there are never-ending corridors and rooms and things on it. It's bigger on the inside. The Time Lords also have a tendency to kind of meddle to keep things right. Since they live for so long and can travel through space and time, they know everybody. They go everywhere. I think you can see where I'm going with this. It is obvious to me that Mary Poppins is a Time Lord. She just fits every category on this. The carpet bag that's bigger on the inside where she can keep pulling stuff out. You could go on and on and on, but Mary Poppins, obviously, Time Lord.
I have no argument. I like the idea of the elemental thing more. But because she doesn't strike me as an alien. An alien? That doesn't jive with Mary Poppins.
Well, neither does the Doctor.
Isn't he an alien?
He is, but the only way you would know that is he has two hearts.
Oh, okay.
Outside of that, he looks totally human and totally normal. He actually is quite clear about this. It's not that he looks like a human, it's that humans look like Time Lords.
Sure.
They were around first.
Okay. Does he have a mom?
He does. She doesn't show up in the show that I'm aware of, but yeah, he had a mom.
Is it Mother Nature?
No, actually, one of the problems with loving a show where time travel is a thing is that the canon is always changing. Now, I love that because this means it's an ongoing complexity, but most of my knowledge of this goes up to the first Peter Capaldi season. There have been some lore changes after that that would actually argue against him having a mother, but I won't go into that in detail here.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I am not opposed to Doctor Who, but I've never been able to jump it. It's too intimidating. There's too many now.
Oh, decades.
Oh,
decades.
I don't have that kind of time.
The beautiful part about the show, and I'm not sorry. I love Doctor Who. The beautiful part about the show is that the first Doctor was an elderly man. He was this kind of very prim Edwardian gentleman. He and Mary Poppins actually probably would have gotten along really well. He was that kind of guy. He was gruff and stern, but also had a little bit of a twinkle when he got into the right situation. Well, he was an elderly man and he was quite ill. And so he could only do the show for about 3 seasons. And everyone assumed the show was just going to be done at that point. But this is where they did the twist. Gallifreyans, the race that the Time Lord is, has this mechanism whereby they can kind of cheat death. What they do is they regenerate into a new person. And so you'll see this on screen where the old Doctor, when their time as the Doctor is done, literally changes and morphs into a different actor. He's still the Doctor. He still has all his history and knowledge and those kinds of things, but he also has different personality quirks, different interests, different ways of playing the Doctor associated with the new regeneration. And so what that means is you can have a continuity that goes back to the beginning where it's always the Doctor, but you also always get this cyclical change where all of a sudden there's a fresh take and a fresh approach to it. Most of us have our favorite Doctors. I'm personally a fan of number 4 and 10, but everyone tends to have their favorites, and it's a wonderful device to keep it going.
Did you satisfy that desire? I know you were wanting to talk about Mary
Yes.
Poppins as a Time Lord.
Mary Poppins is the Time Lord. I'm done.
I think the carpet bag is probably the most clear back and forth and her age, that she doesn't seem to get older in her anger at being called young. I mean, nothing else really makes her angry. That's it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. She does have some strange, I call them strange and wonderful items, gadgets, things that come up in these stories. So her umbrella is one, right? She always flies in with her umbrella and has a parrot's head. Another one is a compass. Do you want to talk about the compass?
The compass is fascinating. It is exactly that. It's a compass. It has north, east, south, west, and the numbers around the dial. But she can hold this compass and say north, and she will transport immediately to the north. We meet a very friendly polar bear who obviously knows Mary Poppins and gives her a fish as a gift. She can say south, and it took her to Australia, right? So east is the panda, and then to the west, she needs a dolphin. But again, she can just say this while holding the compass, and she can go essentially anywhere she wants. One might even say that she can transport herself in time and space by means of this device.
Can Doctor Who bring other people with him?
Yes, he does. Okay. Doctor Who always has companions who follow him, much as Mary Poppins does with the children.
Okay. Maybe someday we'll talk more about Doctor, but truly, I don't know how I'd catch up. Oh, man, there's so many. The compass is interesting because it actually comes from a story on a day when Michael's in a rotten mood, angry, and he's kind of mean. He's just like a mean little kid that day.
He's a punk.
Yeah,
that
he
whole
kicks
chapter.
their cook in the shins and calls her mean names, and he just has something mean inside him. But it's funny. I think I can see the direction there where, a bad thing inside him, because in other ones there's laughter inside them, right? Like her uncle, who, he's had so much laughter inside him, he floats up to the ceiling and Jane and Michael join him. And I do love that idea of a feeling that's so consuming that you really just live it out.
Yeah.
So I think that's the negative version to her uncle on the ceiling.
That makes me think about a concept from classical literature, the idea of the passions. The passions are the things that rule you. The idea is they're called passions because they actually make you passive. So if you are angry, if you are sad, if you are too much in love, these are all passions that basically take away your agency. They control you in some way so you can't be the person that you want to be. This is a recurring motif in classical philosophy and kind of the way the ancient world viewed emotions. This is why Stoics are so big on don't give in to the passions, right? Master your passions, and then you can be who you want to be. I guess we see this here in Mary, because we have the laughter going through these other characters and they lose their agency through it. I mean, it's delightful. They have a wonderful time, but they're bouncing around like corks and really have no control over what's going on.
Mary does not laugh.
Mary does not laugh, but she joins them on the ceiling. She has control of her passions, and as such, she has more freedom than those who are bound by them. And so we see this both with the laughter and with Michael. I hadn't really thought about that before, but that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so I enjoyed these stories just to kind of pick pieces out and focus on them. So the gadgets are a thing as well. What's interesting is when the wind changes, she does leave a gift for both Michael and for Jane. And Michael's is the compass, but it no longer has a direction. The arrow is spinning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she does leave the compass for Michael, and she leaves something else. She leaves a picture for Jane, and she actually leaves a note with this where she says, "Dear Jane, Michael had the compass, so the picture is for you. Au revoir, Mary Poppins." She leaves a note, and the children are heartbroken when Mary Poppins leaves. They know it's going to happen when they hear that the wind has shifted, so it's not a surprise, but they miss her and want her back, and it's a big deal. I love, though, the way they work this in. I don't speak French. You've done some with French, right? You've studied it a little bit?
Very little. I cannot take credit for that, no.
So you may have known this. I didn't. So au revoir, literally translated, is to the seeing again, or until we see each other again.
Yeah, the kids ask about it. What does that mean?
Yeah, in my head, it's just goodbye. And that's what their initial take on this, is she's saying goodbye. But then they actually looked at what it literally means. And to the children, this means that she is going to come back, because Mary Poppins, well, they say, doesn't lie. Dad would disagree. But to them, this is comforting. This is reassuring that they are going to see her again. And in fact, they do. There's several other books, as we described.
Yeah, and it is sweet. And something to take about Mary Poppins is that after she leaves, Jane tucks Michael in a very sweet way. And it says, like Mary Poppins did. And so I do think there's more to their small interactions that might have been warmer, but it's just not conveyed in the book, because they do love her.
Very much.
And I don't think it's just the magic and excitement of things happening, because there's also boring stuff. You know, they're out grocery shopping or playing in the park or going for a walk. Part of reading through these was me trying to figure out how I can like her. Because she's the discussion she has with them, they are critical, but I do think there's warmth, because they wouldn't love her if there wasn't.
That's very true. We also do see some sensitivity and some vulnerability in her as well. The actual first story that gets told is the one where she meets with Bert.
The matchman.
We've been talking this whole time. Bert's a very big character in the movie, but he's a fairly minor character, but he's important.
Yeah.
Like Bert in the movie, he's drawing sidewalk things, but that's one of his jobs he does. He can do all sorts of things. In the movie, Mary Poppins takes the children in, and it's very much by her power that they go into the painting. In the book, it's Bert that grabs her and says, "Let's go." In the book, they are very clearly an item. She is going out on her day off to see him. She is disappointed when he doesn't have the money to pay for a tea for them, because they're not going to get to have their time together in that same way. And she is very tender, very sensitive, very vulnerable in these scenes. But then when Bert takes her into the painting and they get to experience the tea and the merry-go-round and all those things, it's delightful and wonderful for them. When she comes back, the kids say, "What did you do? Where did you go?" And her response, I love, is, "I was in fairyland." And they say, "Well, no, you weren't in fairyland, not the one we know." And she says, "Don't you know everyone has their own fairyland?" Which I think is beautiful. You could definitely read this book as a series of flights of the imagination, where these things don't really happen. So she goes out, meets with Bert. She's disappointed, but in their imagination, this wonderful thing happens. You can read it in that way for really all these stories, that she and the kids, this imagination goes forth, and that she's not lying when she goes back afterwards, when she says, well, I didn't do that these are just stories. These are just imaginative. But there's always that little thing, the burn on the cheek, the band on the snake band around her belt, all these things that still linger to say, well, is this just imagination or did this really happen?
Agreed.
Where this, I think, gets summed up best goes back to the star story where they're gluing the stars on to the sky. So at the end of that chapter, the children are thinking through this. Did this really happen? Are things stars? Are stars things? What's going on? And I'm going to read this quote because I think it's beautiful. This is Jane speaking. What I want to know, she said, is this. Are the stars gold paper? Or is the gold paper stars? There was no reply to her question, and she did not expect one. She knew that only somebody very much wiser than Michael could give her the right answer. And with that, we'll turn the page, and we hope you join us for the next chapter.
Hey, thank you so much for listening. If you're willing, please take a moment to give us a 5-star rating wherever you listen to this podcast. And we would love it if you'd like and follow us on our Facebook page. But best of all, if you enjoy an episode, please share it with a friend. Writing reviews and sharing with others are a pivotal part of the algorithm wizardry that lets other people know about our podcast. Thank you.